Disgusting news, ladies and gentlemen. A massive ring of adults sharing illicit minor content on Instagram has been discovered. Let's talk about it. And as always, we have some sort of technical problem. My laptop, of course, with this cord. I love how many of you have offered to get us a new cord, and this just never works regardless. Don't even bother with it. But let's get into this story that has been put out by the Wall Street Journal, and Elon Musk has even posted on Twitter saying extremely concerning. The title on this article or profile is Instagram Connects Vast Pedophile Network. It says that the Meta Unit system for fostering communities have guided users to child sex content. It's just insane. Company says it is improving internal controls. So let's read into this a little bit and see what we can find. It says Instagram, the popular social media site owned by Meta Platforms, helps connect and promote a vast network of accounts openly devoted to the commission and purchase of underage sex content, according to investigations by the Wall Street Journal and researchers at Stanford University and the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Pedophiles have long used the internet, but unlike the forums and file transfer services that cater to people who have an interest in illicit content, Instagram doesn't merely host those activities. Its algorithms promote them. Instagram connects pedophiles and guides them to the content sellers via recommendation systems that excel at linking those who share niche interests. That's a hell of a niche interest. The Journal and the Academy researchers found. Though out of sight for most of the platform, the sexualized accounts on Instagram are brazen about their interest. The research found that Instagram enabled people to search explicit hashtags. I'm not even going to read the first one. You can see the second one is hashtag preteen sex, and connected them to accounts that use the terms to advertise child sex material for sale. Such accounts often claim to be run by the children themselves and use overtly sexual handles. And I'm not going to read that final part of that sentence either. You can use your imagination to deduce what could have been written by some of these individuals. It goes on. Instagram accounts offering to sell illicit sex material generally don't publish it openly, instead posting menus of content. Certain accounts invite buyers to commission specific acts. Some menus include prices for videos of children harming themselves and imagery of the minor performing sexual acts with animals. Researchers at the Stanford Internet Observatory found. At the right price, children are available for in-person meetups. We've spoken about this before. I did a video about stuff that I had found through TikTok and through being on Instagram that I thought was suspicious and nowhere near as bad as what this Wall Street Journal article details. What I had initially seen on Instagram was videos and pictures of young child models. That's what they are marketed as, and often not from the United States, that were published on Instagram, but they were followed by hundreds of thousands of adult men, these accounts. And there was nothing sexually explicit about these accounts. It was just model-like photos of young children. But if you go into the comment section of these accounts, there are men making less than wholesome comments about the children. There are men asking for trades. And for those of you who do not know what that means, that is asking other sexual predators to trade child content with them through linking up on Instagram. But I was under the impression that you had to actively, search out these things, find them, and that you weren't going to find the illicit content that is detailed here. But not only are people being able to find this on Instagram, but Instagram, through its algorithm of giving you things that you are interested in, is in fact creating a network of individuals that can share this content with one another. I don't know what to say about this. I mean, the obvious. This is horrific and disgusting that this is happening on a platform. And if this is a report that's coming out of research done through Instagram, what other platforms is this happening on? We all know that child predators are very active on the internet, and they will find places to connect with one another, to share content, to communicate with one another, and to devise plans to get in touch with children. But to be so open about doing this on the internet blew my mind when I watched the comments from those model photos and stuff like that. But to see it so openly done is just a whole nother world. If these people feel this comfortable on Instagram, imagine what else is happening. Just imagine.
Yeah, and it does seem to be a problem that is particularly severe on Meta. This article does go on to detail some statistics that said that 1.9 million reports of child pornography from internet companies were reported to the federal government, which was a 47% increase from 2 years earlier, and 85% of those happened on Meta. So this is we need a total and complete shutdown until we can figure out what the hell is going on type of situation happening at Meta. Like, why is it so, like, obviously their apps, Facebook and Instagram, have a ton of users, probably more than any other platform in the world. But even so, they seem to have a lot less difficulty moderating what they deem to be hate speech or what they deem to be misinformation with regard to COVID. I had no problem finding those, filtering them out, and not recommending your content to other people. You were even shadow banned, Amala, specifically for far minor infractions. And yet somehow this stuff is making it through, not only making it through, not only being present on the platform, but it is being promoted. And that is just a crazy reality that is really inexcusable.
And this is the thing, right? I think Meta is heavily relying on sort of algorithmic censorship of this sort of material on their platform, and relying on machines and software to be able to detect this stuff and get rid of it on Instagram. This article details that 3 academics who decided to get onto Instagram and try to find this stuff with limited access on the app were able to find huge networks of pedophiles and people who are looking to exploit children, communicating with one another, trading content with one another. And that was just 3 people who decided to do this. They go on to say that they hope that the company reinvests in human investigators, because there is a disconnect there. Like, if you're just using software to find specific keywords that people are sharing, what are individuals who want to find this content going to do, who have an obsession with this content? They're going to find other ways to circumvent the systems that you've put in place. And for the most part, it can be very easy for them to do that, it seems. So it does take, I think, a human eye and a group of actual human beings to go around detecting this sort of information. What's wild to me is that the people that I've seen being most vocal about this are just random individuals on TikTok. That is where I've seen the most activity surrounding bringing a light to this issue. I want to find this guy's name who has been doing this for quite some time and actually just stopped searching on Instagram after he had reported so many people to the authorities and just could not emotionally handle all of the stuff that he was finding on Instagram to report to law enforcement. So something clearly needs to be done. And Taylor makes the point that they're focusing on so many other things that have nothing to do with people, and especially children, directly being exploited. And COVID is a great example of that. Look at other platforms. We all know that YouTube, and YouTube Kids in particular, has a massive problem with sexual predators being on the platform, searching for kids' content, trying to communicate with children through the platform. And they're getting through the cracks, right? They're able to continue to do this on a daily basis. But recently we saw Candace Owens post a video on her YouTube channel saying that YouTube has come after her, and they've detailed a list of specific videos that she needs to take off of her YouTube if she wants to continue to be monetized. And what was her infraction there? What did she do wrong? She misgendered somebody. So YouTube is able to go through Candace Owens and Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh's, all of their YouTube content, find instances of them misgendering somebody, and then report back to them saying, here are the rules that you need to abide by in order to stay monetized. But they can't do the same for sexual predators who are active on their apps. Make it make sense.
Yeah, it just makes no sense. And then to underscore that point, there was a quote in this article too from a spokesperson from Meta, because the Wall Street Journal investigators asked them about this. And the spokesperson said, acknowledged that Meta had received the reports and failed to act on them. A review of how the company handled reports of child sex abuse found that a software glitch was preventing a substantial portion of user reports from being processed, and that the company's moderation staff wasn't properly enforcing the platform's rules, according to the spokesman. So you have their moderation staff dropping the ball majorly, God knows why, and they're blaming a software glitch. But again, it's inexcusable. You can't just be like, oh, we had thousands of illicit images of sexualized images of children being transferred on and even sold through our platform, and oh, sorry, it was just a software glitch, or our moderation team just kind of was having a bad day. Like, I'm sorry, that is not good enough.
It's not. I mean, this obviously is going to bring them a lot of heat and a lot of pushback. And I imagine there's going to be direct responses from hopefully Mark Zuckerberg himself about what he intends to do about this problem, right? Because we know what they're capable of censoring on the internet. We know what they're capable of taking down. We know, due to his own very words, that when Mark Zuckerberg was working with the FBI to censor information in regard to Hunter Biden's laptop. So you have a direct, federal agency reaching out to you and saying, I need you to scrub this information off of your platform, or at least shadow ban it on your platform. And he's totally capable of doing that to whatever extent the US government asks him to do that. Why is the same not being done for child sex abuse and that sort of content? Why is that not at the top of our priority list when it comes to safety on the internet? I'll let you guys fill in your own answers there. I think there are maybe a lot of reasons that particular individuals within the federal government are not putting emphasis on child sex abuse and sex crimes, given their, recent history in that arena. But you would think that there would be other people working at Meta and all of these other platforms who would be bringing this to light and talking about it, because it is just unacceptable. It's unacceptable with those child model accounts that I found on Instagram that are not even illicit in their content, but are clearly driving sexual predators' activity on the platform. And it is certainly not acceptable with the far more extreme forms of this. You are actually talking about human sex trafficking. This is human sex trafficking, what is happening here, at the furthest extent of being able to contact somebody through Instagram and for a certain price get time with a minor. It's sex trafficking. So this came out today. We'll see what the responses are from the higher ups at Meta. And in the meantime, I thought you would like to know that this is an issue that's happening on that platform. Not that we should all be shocked, right? And I read this, and unfortunately, my immediate thought is like, okay, this article is going to focus on Instagram. All this makes me think is what is happening on other social media platforms. And to what extent are we unaware of that? And we just haven't investigated or done the research on it. The United States is one of the highest on the list when it comes to, sexual content, human trafficking, sex trafficking. So if they're finding their networks on Instagram, why wouldn't they be doing the same on other platforms?
Yeah, and to your point, Amala, there was a lot of criticism directed at Twitter and Elon shortly after and during the takeover, and in that period of time, where people were saying, I reported child sexual material on Twitter and it was not taken down. However, I will say, to their credit, on this article, it did mention that Twitter did not recommend such accounts to the same degree as Instagram, and it took them down far more quickly, according to the team. And I think another point that you mentioned earlier, just like with the algorithms and how YouTube can promote certain things and clamp down on certain things so easily. Another thing, to Elon's credit, and that Twitter, I think in some ways is being a model for how to deal with this stuff, is they've open sourced their algorithm, and from what I understand, have made a lot more transparency with their content moderation policies as well. Yep. And that's something that we should, if you were looking for things to hone in on as ways to fight back, is like we should be demanding more transparency from how these big tech companies are running their algorithms and how they're moderating content.
Yeah, if so many of us are going to spend so much time on the platform, on this platforms, the decent ones of us and the indecent ones of us, we should probably have a little bit of transparency as to how this is working. And yeah, it is important to draw the distinction that the reason that this is getting so much attention in regard to Instagram is that it seems as though it's been proven that Instagram is actively promoting the content, meaning if you are a sexual predator on this platform looking for the content will find you and they will find a way to get you more of it. So, I mean, we knew that would come, right, with algorithms and the way that they're working and the way that they are quickly developing to give you exactly what it is that you want. You have to think about the nefarious ends of that spectrum too. It'll give you just about anything you're looking for. And if there's not a valid system in place to filter out garbage and criminality, then if you're looking for garbage and criminality, that's what you'll find. So we'll keep you posted on this story. And hopefully there is a steadfast response. We're going to move on to lighter things, I think. Actually,
real quick, shout out to Buck Angel, who's in the chat. I think that's the real Buck Angel, but hey, Buck, thanks for being here today.
Love you, Buck, if that's actually you. I would expect Buck to be verified on YouTube, but hey, Buck. So had to cover that. Here's another way in which technology is creating problems, and sometimes problems of sexual abuse. Surprise, surprise. Do you all own Ring cameras? I have a Ring camera, albeit it is outside of my apartment at my front door. So not much going on there except people walking by. But here is a story from the FTC about what could possibly be happening with your Ring camera.
Y'all, employees at Ring, like the place that makes the cameras for your house, just got caught spying on women in their bedrooms and their bathrooms, like thousands of hours of video they watched of people in their houses. I gotta read this to you off my computer. From the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. According to the complaint, these failures amounted to egregious violations of user privacy. For example, one employee over several months viewed thousands of video recordings belonging to female users of Ring cameras that surveilled intimate spaces in their homes, such as their bathrooms and bedrooms. The employee wasn't stopped until another employee discovered the misconduct, and even after Ring imposed restrictions, they couldn't tell how many other employees inappropriately accessed private videos because Ring failed to implement basic measures to monitor and detect employees' video access. That's why when I talk about things like this, I call them in-home surveillance devices, and people kind of laugh at me like I'm being crazy, but this is what happens. And this isn't an isolated problem. Tesla just got caught doing the same thing, where the cameras on the Tesla were recording people walking naked into their garage at night, and they would pass around videos. I'm gonna do another TikTok on that in the next week coming up. But if you have a surveillance device in your house, you need to know that you're not just some anonymous thing that nobody's looking at but a computer. Any creepy dude who's working for that company could take those videos of you, do whatever he wants with them, send them around as jokes, watch them take it off, who knows? You really have to be careful, and that's why I don't have one.
Surprise! Well, people have been worried about this, right? Because we went through this whole thing. At first, when you had social media and Instagram and Snapchat and all of these things, nobody was really made aware that, if you are using a social media platform, people outside of the direct people that you're talking to have access to your DMs. They have access to the photos that you have. They have access to everything that's on your profile. So a bunch of private information there. Then you got Amazon Alexa and the little Google bots that you could have in your house. And people were concerned about those being able to listen to you, which was confirmed. They do listen to you. Now you have Ring cameras and Tesla cameras. And if you are a sick individual who wants access to people's lives like that, why wouldn't you work at Ring and look at people's footage? Why wouldn't you do that? So just something to think about there. That is crazy to me, especially as technology is going to continue to develop. And of course, surveillance technology and people getting their own personal cameras and things like Ring. These things are only going to get increasing popularity as time goes on. And this is what could be happening. So really be careful. If you wouldn't
Moral
do it,
of the story, yeah, don't walk naked from your garage into your house.
Yeah, or like I was thinking, like, an unknowing mom might buy a Ring camera as like a baby monitor and put it in her baby's room or something like that, and then you have people who are looking at your footage, and who knows, like, people do anything when they're confined by the walls of their own house. So it's like, if you wouldn't do something in front of a window where other people are on the other side, don't do it in front of a Ring camera. Don't do it in front of a Tesla camera. Honestly, don't do it in front of your laptop camera or your phone camera. It is just crazy how people can gain access to parts of your life that you think are going to be private.
Yeah, where are you on the whole Alexa debate? Like, do you have one in your house, or would you, or do you have a problem with it?
I do have a problem with it. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe it's just me being overreacting, but I do not want something that, like, if you can say, "Hey Alexa," and that thing perks up and listens to you, am I really supposed to believe it's not listening at any given moment? I could say right now that I want dog treats and go onto Google and I'd start getting ads for them. So
yeah, I can bust out my good old fingers and open a website and type that in on Amazon.com if I have to. But are we really any better? Because I've got an iPhone sitting here, and if I say "Hey Siri," it'll probably open up too. So there's no escaping it to some degree. But,
right?
Yeah, I'm not looking for extra opportunities to put cameras and microphones in my home that are listening to me.
Right. I try to, like, when you get your iPhone and it's like, do you want to set up fingerprint? I'm like, no. Do you want to set up Face ID? No. Do you want to set up Hey Siri? No. None of that is set up on my phone. Now, do I believe that they don't already use those things through, like, loopholes that they have? I don't know. Wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, at least you're not willfully giving it to them. Like,
right.
I mean, granted, yeah, you may have purchased the device, but, like, I don't know, for them to gather that data seems a little seedy, as opposed to you just being like, yeah, here, take it.
Right. It's crazy how much they ask you about like, when you get an iPhone, it asks to scan your face. It asks to scan your fingerprints. It asks if you want your voice scanned. It asks if every single app that you download now asks you if it is able to track your activity on your device. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And what's really interesting is that when you get those questions on the app, right? It says, like, this app wants to track your activity. You can say, like, yes, allow it to track. And the second option is not no, do not track my activity. It is ask app not to track. Do you guys see what the trickery could be in the phrasing of that? Oh yeah, let me click the button that says ask the app not to track. It doesn't definitively tell you that it's not tracking your activity or what you're searching for on your phone or your camera or your lens or anything like that. It's not saying that. You're simply asking it permission not to track you.
Yeah. I'm about to Ron Swanson my cell phone right now and just hit it with a hammer.
Oh my gosh. I really did not think about that until this very moment, that it says ask app not to track.
Please don't steal all my personal data and track everything that I'm doing and sell it to advertisers and let your perverted employees monitor me.
It's crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. I'm going to be, what are those people who, they don't use any sort of machine or tech? Luddites? Is that what they're called?
Well,
probably.
Amish. I mean,
the Amish and the Mennonites unplugged as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm honestly, I'm about to go find the Amish. I'm sure they take in new people every day.
We did a poll here in the chat for you guys. Would you use Alexa, OK Google, etc. in your home? 74% of you say no, 26% say yes so far.
Yeah, man, I just can't get behind it. I don't care how convenient it is. I don't care what it does for you. I don't want something that is listening to me in any way, shape, or form, even though I probably already have it. We probably already have it. Speaking of new technology that is on the cusp of being in your hands if you want it, we now have this fun little Apple Vision Pro that is going to be available next year for about $3,500. And I'm sure you all have seen the ad for this because it went absolutely viral as soon as it was announced. But let's watch a quick clip of what this looks like.
Just muting it because of
we don't want the copyright. Yeah. Okay,
yeah, you all know
so you've got these screens in front of your face, right? Access to all your apps, videos. You have these cool little hand signals you can do, and instead of watching a TV or, I don't know, going outside, you can sit and watch your movies right in front of your face. Wow. It's awesome. Just astounding. Does anybody else think this looks goofy as hell? Like, these people look goofy. I just don't.
Look like Scuba Steve.
Right. I just don't see this being mainstream. But you know what? I'm constantly surprised about the lengths that people are willing to go to be like satiated in their hunger for dopamine. You know? So maybe this Google Vision or Apple Vision Pro is our future. Are you guys buying this? Is this what you're going to purchase?
No, we asked you guys in the chat too. Like, I could see a use for this at like, if there's like a pop up, how they have those like 3D theaters or, what is it? AR, VR theaters in malls and stuff. Like, okay, give me an immersive experience in something and make it really cool. But like, I don't want that in my home. I have enough screens begging for my attention all day long. And it's hard enough to just, feel like I'm connected to the real world as it is doing this show every day. So no, I'm not looking for one more screen to put in front of my face. And doesn't that seem like it's going to burn your eyeballs out? Like, don't they tell you not to put screens close to your head? Do they have like ways of making this not as harmful to your eyesight? I don't know. Dude,
when we were little, it was like, don't sit too close to the TV, kids. Like, it's gonna be too much for your eyeballs. And now it's like, let's strap your phone to your face.
Yeah. literally 2 inches from your eyeballs. Let's do that.
I can't.
I do have to say there are some elements of this that are really cool, like tracking the hand motions, and you can do stuff like that. Like, as an editor, that's really cool because if you don't have to click around on a mouse, awesome. But at the same time, hey, I'm not going to be strapping some scuba goggles on my face and sitting down, especially if people are around. Like, engage with the people.
This is how they get you, right? Because this is interesting, right? And I can find myself watching it and being like, oh, well, if it came out and somebody had one, I would want to try it once. Like, I would want to see what this experience is like. That's how they get your ass. They make it too cool to be able to resist. You have to fight the urge to want to try something like this because it's just not good for you. I get that it'll be able to accomplish a lot. Maybe it'll make things easier for you and you'll get your notifications faster or whatever, but it's simply not worth the soul sucking that it will do directly from your brain. Directly from your brain, guys.
I feel like we're those curmudgeons that you watch clips of on YouTube now of like people on the news in the 90s who are like, this whole internet thing is going to blow over. It's going to ruin your life and your mind and no one's really going to use it. We all need to stay. Cell phones, who needs them? Make a phone call the good old fashioned way. You don't want a phone with you all the time. Like, I feel like we're those people now, but I'll plant my flag at some point. I'm like, I'm just going to welcome the curmudgeonness and just be the old person that technology passes by if this is where it's going.
Yeah.
For real, I'm about to go buy a Nokia flip phone. I'm over y'all. I'm over this. I cannot deal with it. And Scott asked an interesting question. He's like, what if you FaceTime somebody with these goggles on? What does it look like? Like, what are they seeing?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I actually looked into this after I asked the question, and apparently it creates like a hologram version of you, but it's very rudimentary, or at least 2023 version of hologram, not like the Star Wars really cool, hey, there's a hologram, what's up?
Right.
So I guess that's what they're seeing, but not actually you or your face. And also I wanted to add this, like, didn't we just go through a period of time where people were wearing things on their face and we were losing like connectivity in smiles and facial recognition? And, this is literally covering your eyes. And yeah, you can interact with people even while you're wearing them, but like, to what degree is that going to affect, younger generations down the line and being able to read human emotion and so on and so forth?
If this becomes something that people really use to that extent, it's gonna be wild. Imagine like this Apple Vision Pro comes out and then it's like another pandemic and suddenly you're like mask goggled. Oh gosh. It's like WALL-E. It's like something out of WALL-E.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're all getting connected to the Matrix. We're one step closer. You're not going to go see your family anymore or go to business meetings. You just put on your little goggles in your house and you're instantly with everybody's hologram. And it sounds it's like, on the one hand, there's maybe nice use cases for it, but there's so much potential for just broader damages to our humanity and to society that is not fun to think about.
Every day I'm becoming a hippie. I swear I'm becoming a hippie. My future, as it's mapped out in my brain, is like homestead, grow your own food. You can't trust the food production anymore. Bill Gates is buying up all the farms. We need to have land. I don't want the technology. They're all spying on you, and I don't want to be hooked into the Matrix and sitting in my little pod like Ready Player One, and I'm just gonna get away from the world. Public school is getting worse and everything. Like, I'm just becoming a hippie as the days go on.
A Luddite.
Every morning.
Like trying to stay connected to the earth. Oh, goodness.
Well, 91% of you guys are not interested in buying an Apple Vision Pro, even if you had the money to spare. So I guess you're with us on that one.
Right. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. $3,500 is hefty, boys. That's hefty.
In this economy?
Barely buying eggs.
Also, didn't like Mark Zuckerberg just crater Meta's stock for like an entire year because he went all in on the VR space, and nobody wanted to buy their headsets? So Apple's doing the same thing now.
Yeah.
But,
I think what Apple has, though, is like this built-in trust in community, having been Apple and having just like this monopoly on tech right now. And Mark Zuckerberg, people weren't feeling Mark Zuckerberg to begin with. Like, let's be honest. Facebook was on the decline. I think Meta was like this last-ditch effort to kind of like reinvigorate the brand, reinvigorate the reptile brand. And people weren't going to trust it regardless. But coming from something as seen as reputable as Apple, I think people might actually want this.
Yeah, remember that video he made where he's like meeting the little like weird like animated monster character friends in the metaverse, and his little metaverse, he looked like a lizard person, and people were like, I don't want to go hang out with you. It's kind of weird and scary.
This is bad PR. Fire the PR team on that one. It just didn't work out. Now, whoever's doing PR for this is doing a pretty good job, because it seems like, well, it's getting memed on the internet really, really hard. I will give it that. So people seem to have their wits about them and a little bit of sensibility in regard to this. But that might just be also because it's $3,500 and it's sort of out of reach. It's not come out yet. I'm curious to see just how trendy this becomes and if it becomes as popular as it could. I hope not. I hope we still have, parts of the human condition intact that stop us from doing this. No, I thought about this, right? Okay. There's this video of a streamer who finds an indent in his head from his headphones. Let's take a look.
Dude, the shaver's working like a champ. Dude, I have like an indent right here. This is where my headphones go. I have a fucking headphone indent in my head? What the fuck? I always thought that was just my hair. I thought just my hair did that.
Now imagine you have an Apple Vision Pro indent in the back of your head from wearing these goggles.
Just on your
face is just sunk in.
Oh gosh. Here's a little graphic that somebody made that says this model shows what gamers could look like in 20 years. There's the headphone indent. It's literally right there. You know,
my gosh.
Dreams and visions and models are becoming reality.
Apparently, like it's made of metal too, so it's actually quite heavy. So that neck, you will actually start seeing the texting neck or the gamer neck more so.
Dude, I'm terrified of getting that. Like I got on my Instagram, I get recommended all this like, mobility and like how to fix your weird issues with not being able to move your neck and stuff, because I'm at the gym, I'm like doing all the exercises like thoracic extensions and stuff to be like, don't get texting neck. I'm terrified of that stuff.
Right. You don't want that hunchback when you're old or whatever. Honestly, not even when you're old. It's going to happen younger and younger for people. I remember reading an article at one point about like iPad kids and stuff, and how some scientists like theorized, or maybe had proven, I don't know, you can fact check me on it, but that kids were going to have like an extra bone that was going to start protruding out of their neck in order to support their head being down like that to look at phones and stuff. Just take me out at that point. Take me out. Pull an old Yeller on me. I've seen enough. It was never meant to be.
This is probably too much or TMI, but this one hits hard, this video, because I actually have just a natural indent of like a gamer head. Like I have like a peanut shaped head if you look from the side. So when I do eventually go bald, people, that you will see it. And it's not because I'm a gamer. It's just like naturally.
You gotta like wear a t-shirt that's just like, I promise it's not because of video games. This is natural.
That's why you're the only one of us wearing earbuds right now. And I'm like wanting to take these off. I feel like I'm getting gonna have permanent damage.
I'm nervous
from this
about
podcast.
it. Dude, they're gonna start doing like plastic surgeries for gamer headphone indent. It's gonna be a legit
Of a
thing.
3D printed skull.
Yeah, dude, they're gonna figure that shit out. It's so true. Oh man. The future is bright, guys, I promise you. As long as you don't fall victim to these sorts of things. Let's keep on the lighter note, guys. I'm enjoying it. We started the show out heavy. Let's get into some other stuff. For Pride, Discovery Plus is promoting 8 minutes of revisionist history inspired by queer theory. Their claim is that Abraham Lincoln was a flaming queer, didn't love his wife, and had 4 male lovers. Now, I have not heard about this in particular when it comes to Abraham Lincoln. I'm sure you all probably haven't heard that either. Now, I'm willing to grant if you did some deep dives into history, you might find some less than wholesome activity between male historical figures. I think in Ron Chernow's book about Alexander Hamilton, he might have speculated that Alexander Hamilton had somewhat of a romantic relationship with a man by the name of John Lawrence, but different time, different language. And when I brought this up, Scott made a really good point of like, we might insinuate something as being love or romantic now that back in the day was just how they would talk to each other, or like a deep appreciation for one another and for intellect, which men had far deeper philosophical, intellectual friendships than I think a lot of men are creating now. And that could be a part of the translation here. I'm not sure what's happened with Abraham Lincoln, and I, in fact, have not seen this video. I don't even know if it's inappropriate. So I'm going to give a warning to you all that we don't know what we're going to find in this video.
Hey now, y'all have probably heard about this guy, Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States.
And it must be noted that Alex Newell, the person who is narrating this right now, is known as a gay icon who dresses in drag all the time, is very popular on Broadway. So we're getting a very clear message. And Alex Newell is wildly talented, I must state, but that's the messaging we're getting.
He won the Civil War and landed his mug on the $5 bill, all while being a total bearded daddy. Mercy. Lincoln was famous for having a way with words.
77 years ago.
I can already feel this is like Drunk History, if you've seen that show, which I love the show Drunk History, and I think it's fascinating and funny. This is like gay history. So it's a spin, certainly.
Our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
Somebody just put in the chat, Gabraham Lincoln.
Oh no.
Oh no.
It's like a bad stripper name.
So had a way with hot, young men. Yes, darling, your history book has censored Lincoln's love life for far too long. Truth is, Lincoln had at least 4 intimate and maybe even sexual relationships with men.
Intimate and maybe even sexual relationships with men. You know, there's a big jump between intimate and a sexual relationship. I'm very curious to see what they get into, but men of this period in time wrote at length to one another through, friendship and camaraderie about their lives, about their struggles, and that was what like masculinity and maleness was shown as in that time, and that was how they communicated with one another. So if this is going to make the wide jump of saying that those type of relationships were in fact sexual or homosexual relationships, it's kind of tick me off.
We like to call them Lincoln's 4 scores. But let's start at the beginning. Before he was an accomplished lawyer, statesman, etc., Abe was a poor 21-year-old from Kentucky, and he was brawny as hell.
I would think of Lincoln as a young Matthew McConaughey.
All right.
I'm Thomas Belsurski. I'm a professor of history at Eastern
Gotta have his pronouns, he, him, his, just in case you were wondering, and you couldn't tell that by looking at him.
Connecticut State University. My pronouns are he, him, his. Lincoln certainly had the build of a bodybuilder or a wrestler because of the manual labor he did in his youth.
Who asked? That is so weird. Oh my God.
Also, I'm pretty sure there are historical documents that state that he was tall, gangly, and he was kind of awkward because he was super tall in his time. And so I don't know what this speculation or where this speculation is even coming from, just because he did manual labor.
We need a complete and total shutdown until we figure out what the hell is going on this show. This is, oh my gosh.
He was ripped.
One area man recalled.
Physically, Mr. Lincoln was the strongest man I ever knew. That is saying a good deal. Let me tell you what I saw him do. He took a full barrel of whiskey containing 44 gallons, gripping each end with one hand, raised it deliberately to his face, and drank from the bunghole. In doing so, he won a $10 hat from Bill Green.
Who was Bill Green? Well, 22-year-old Lincoln, while teaching himself law, had taken a day job at the Denton Offutt General Store. Bill Green was Lincoln's assistant at the store, and the two had grown close, very close.
His thighs were as perfect as a human being could be. I mean, what can I say? I'm a thigh man.
Bill...
Again, that's not a gay thing to say. I think we're getting things that have been read into here outside of its time and pushed through a modern lens, which is what's happening with all history these days. My gosh, it's the same thing as like taking a bit of speculation on Cleopatra and then going, now we're going to make her black for the Netflix docuseries. It's the same exact thing happening here. And if you read back, no, we won't get into it. We'll wait.
Rose as score number 1.
Lincoln's most intimate relationships are with men, not women. He wants to be...
As was the case for most men of that time. So were they all homosexuals? Is that what you're trying to say?
Around men. Close up, touching, and personal.
Bill became Lincoln's extremely close male, roommate. They both worked and slept at the store, apparently so close together that when one turned over, the other had to do likewise.
In that moment of bed sharing, anything could happen. That's why I sleep in a king bed today, because I don't want to touch my partner. Lincoln enjoyed it. It's an arc of a lifetime, and it's a sexual arc.
Sexual arc? Amen, sister.
What?
That sounds queer as
Howdy, I'm Eric Cervini, the Book of Queer's resident homo historian. Welcome to the footnotes.
Let's see.
You may have noticed that we haven't labeled Abe gay because that wouldn't make too much sense. Why? Because sexuality, just like race and gender, is what we call a social construct, or a concept that we as a society just came up with. And during Lincoln's time, the idea of a homosexual hadn't yet been conceived or constructed in the English language. For hundreds of years, people didn't agree on a word for men who loved men. And given all of these changes in language throughout history, that's why we love the word queer. All it means, in the words of queer theorist David Halperin, is whatever's at odds with the normal, the legitimate, the dominant. And hey, we may even come up with newer social constructs to describe ourselves in the future. After all, they're really just figments of our collective imagination.
Well, I suppose I'll put my gaydar away for this chapter. Anyway, with Bill Green as a late night study buddy, Lincoln became a lawyer.
All right. I think we're done here. I think we're done here. We made a hypothesis. I haven't heard about the 3 other men that they're speculating some sort of erotic homosexual relationship with, but they certainly did not substantiate the first. That actually blows my mind. Blows my mind that this is what we're getting right now. Wow. Woo-wee.
Yeah. I mean, it started off with the claims about him being brawny, and like 2 seconds of Googling, you see, this is from his Wikipedia page. Although well-muscled as a young adult, he was always thin. Evidence says, or testimonies of friends said, he never weighed over 175 pounds in his life, despite being over 6'4". He weighed about 160 pounds in 1830. So we're talking about somebody described him as thin as a beanpole and ugly as a scarecrow. So there's a fact check on that. And as far as the rest of this stuff, like you said, Alma, it's very common. It was very common in that time for like at taverns and stuff for people to share beds, they were divided by sex. And so you had women's areas and men's areas, and the men often shared rooms. Lincoln shared a room and a bed with a guy for 4 years, but for 2 of those years, there's another guy in that same room with him. So it was just like a common thing to board up with other men back then. And they're starting from a conclusion based on things that they're reading into history, and then saying you've got to prove a negative by bringing direct evidence that says that he wasn't gay or something like that, which really the evidence in the first place doesn't suggest that. So it's just, it's so dishonest. It reminds me of like, it's got 1619 Project energy, Cleopatra energy, just reading what you want to read based on your modern political agenda and modern sensibilities into history. And it's just completely fallacious. And I loved the religious sermon about gender identity ideology at the end that really had nothing to do with the rest of the actual historical facts. So great job, Discovery Plus.
Right. And when you like have somebody who's like an LGBTQ plus historian, what is the framework like, or the lens through which you are looking at history? Through your own like hypersexualized lens. That would have been something totally normal for the time, as Taylor just substantiated with what he's looked up. And because you are sexualizing everything in the world right now, you look back to history and sexualize it and paint a picture that would not be anything to, sneer at or look differently to of that time. You were literally taking things into the modern era and saying, yeah, if two men were sleeping in a bed now or something like that, you might speculate about their sexuality. Historically, makes total sense. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and also on top of that, professor talking about, he only had close friendships with men that were, physical in nature, or just like, buddy, touchy, whatever.
Right.
Whatever. That was normal for the society at large in general, because having opposite sex friends was actually frowned upon unless they were your like wife or spouse or anything along those lines. It was like that was frowned upon and totally normal. Right.
Women stayed in their camp with one another and were encouraged to be friends with other women of similar age too. So you had like age like constructs and things of that time too. And men did the same. Yeah. I mean, and you're talking about like peak camaraderie. These are like men who are fighting actively on battlefields and through wars and constantly living in close quarters. This is a totally different time. And to be like, looks gay to me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and like I've told you guys, like last year I was reading the biography of Benjamin Franklin and even I think George Washington as well. But a lot of the founders and people in those times would have these little cadres of friends that they would link up with and like share their poetry and compare notes on different things that they were reading and learning, because there wasn't an internet. So you read books if you wanted to get smarter, and you'd just share your feelings and share life and your insights and stuff. And that developed a really strong sense of camaraderie. And it's something like you said, Amla, that now relationships between men, because of the weird times in which we live in, there's the air is charged with this, it's the sexualized, and that was never the case. And this isn't anything new. Like people have begun insinuating that about David and Jonathan in the Old Testament, like King David, because they were very close friends. And I think of J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were like always speculated to have homosexual inclinations in their life, because they were famously not necessarily with each other, but just were famous. Like C.S. Lewis was a bachelor, and J.R.R. Tolkien had a lot of deep friendships with men, but that translated into their stories as well. Like there's unabashed like Frodo kisses Sam's forehead and Aragorn kisses Boromir's forehead and in the books. And for as much as people denigrate the old values that are espoused in those books and say, it's toxic masculinity, because men suppress their feelings with old traditional masculinity. Traditional masculinity was much more expressive and much more there was not a sexualized energy around it. So people were more open with their feelings, and they were even, more open about hugging and kissing because it wasn't sexualized. And I'll just end my little spiel here with a quote I pulled up from C.S. Lewis. He said, "Those who cannot conceive friendship as a substantive love, but only as a disguise or elaboration of eros or erotic love, betray the fact that they have never had a friend." So
Literally.
there you go.
That is so very true. Like, if you can look at something like that and just not see a deep, beautiful, meaningful human connection, and all you see is just like a sexual charge between two people, what have you been deprived of? And that's kind of sad, because that means that through probably early on in your life, things have been presented to you in a sexual nature, and that you have not yet had the chance to discover meaningful relationships outside of sexual energy. And that's really very sad. Yeah. Very, very sad at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's almost a nugget of like the infusion of like the Freudian way of thinking too is the only way to view things is through the sexual lens. And I think that's run amok well beyond what his intent was to psychoanalyze people at large. Yeah. And I think people are just running with that, especially in today's day and age. And then, as you guys were saying, just putting it into the framework of the lives of great intellectuals who shared their intellect with one another and fell in love with the fact that they were pursuing truth through conversation and friendship.
Yeah. I mean, like, we have such a lack, at least in the modern age, of like deeper passions for other things outside of like dopamine and sexual stimulation. Yep. That's the lens that they're looking through, because that's what they derive value from in their own lives. That's what they view as fun. That's what they view as enjoyment. That's what they view as pleasure, rather than like these deeper philosophical thoughts. Lincoln, in his day and age, right, as a young man, would literally get on stage and debate with other men for hours. And what they would do in this era would people would congregate to watch these hours-long debates. And I'm saying each man would have like 1 or 2 hours rebuttal space for a singular question that they were going back and forth on. And people would come together to watch lively debate about philosophical issues, politics, what was happening in their community. That was the passion and the drive that these individuals have. Could you imagine that ever happening in today's day? People can hardly sit through a 1-hour podcast and find enough passion to sit in front of a phone watching two people have a conversation. That's what they were driven by back then. And so many other tasks of human existence that we no longer have today. And they're like, bet Lincoln was gay because he slept in the same bed as another dude.
Yeah, you're just showing how shallow your worldview is. And one other quote that popped in my head, I just pulled it up while y'all were talking, was, this is Viktor Frankl, said, when a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. So if all you can conceive of is the sexual, and all you can conceive of is just shallow pleasures in life, it just means that you are lacking a deeper sense of meaning about how you're going about things, how you're going about your relationships. And that's, I don't know, I would say that that's a call to look inward, perhaps, instead of trying to project your preconceived ideas onto history.
Yeah. So crazy that they're like, it's happening with everything right now. Like, all the marginalized communities are like getting together to be like, I bet this person was black. I bet this person was trans. I bet this person was gay historically. I just saw a video the other day of, and I have not looked into this, so I'm just going to talk about the content of the video, but it was Keke Palmer on TikTok. And she's like, The Great Gatsby is black. And there are historians debating back and forth about this being a black man. And, I can't believe I didn't know this before. People are just like going back into history and just like finding people and saying, well, this person's black, this person's gay, this person's trans, this person's queer, this person's two-spirit or whatever, to validate the worldview that they have in a day and time that is totally different from anything they would have been experiencing back then. But here we are. Just love revisionist history, guys. We've got to keep up. We got to keep up. We're going to get into super chats now.
All righty. I didn't see a ton today, so if you want your super chat to be read today, get them in now. Let's see. Starting with Major General Discomfort says, thank you, Amala. Love you much for talking about this.
Thank you. I'm assuming you're talking about the Instagram conversation. I hope it gets, I think it's going to get a lot of press, luckily. I think this is an issue that all people can get behind and say, this is disgusting and something needs to be done about it. So here's hoping.
One would think everyone could be upset about this. We shall see.
Right.
Eliezer Salazar says, Facebook makes it very difficult to delete or deactivate your page, nearly impossible. I really dislike not having autonomy over my own information.
Yeah, that's the crazy part too. You have to search through some of these sites to be able to find out how to deactivate your account. Very interesting. I've never tried for a Facebook account, but I'm sure it's not the easiest thing in the world, and purposefully so.
Yeah, things that should be illegal. Making it hard to delete that. Making you go in person or call to cancel your gym membership. That's always a thing.
Right.
Yeah, the cookies on websites. I think we should just band together as a civilization and just be like, no one wants to click, I don't want the cookies, or I accept the cookies. Just, we got to figure that one out.
Exactly.
Guys.
And then you make me go through a whole menu where I have to read through all the ways you're trying to track my activity.
Lord have mercy. If you guys have other stuff that everyone should agree should be banned, drop it in the chat. Dakota Galloway says, did you see Hassan's video reacting to you yet? No. Did he? Interesting.
You mean reacting to our documentary?
Oh, maybe. Okay. The one we did a whole episode on Monday about it. So unless he's made a reaction to our reaction
of his reaction.
Yeah. How many layers deep can we go?
Which he better not, because there's literally nothing he could say. There's nothing. I bet you better not.
Yeah.
Best to sit that
He's got
one out.
a very deep hole to dig out of.
Yeah.
Commenter formerly known as your name cuts off because it's so long. Oh, Dixon Butts. I see ya. Okay, I'll take it. It's like the artist formerly known as Prince. Right, Dixon. I make a point to say and wave goodnight to my Amazon employee every night before going to bed. It's only polite.
Right.
That's good.
People are like waving to my NSA agents.
It's like, hey, good night, Tim Cook. Amy Joe says there's a program you can download that turns the camera off on your phone. You have to turn it on every time you take a photo, but totally worth it.
Little do you know.
Now the people who made that app just can see my camera feed.
Right, now the program that you downloaded is spying on you.
Yeah.
They know I think I'm safe.
It's never free. They're data mining.
Right. They're getting something.
Trust no one. Austin says, hey, this is my first super chat. Thanks,
Austin.
I wanted to say that this is a great show and it's refreshing to hear others have the same views as I do. I really enjoyed your documentary. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. And welcome to the club. We're happy to have you.
Yeah, if you haven't watched the Amala's new documentary that just came out on Monday, it's on prageru.com/unwoke. And I think it may be on YouTube this week.
Yeah,
is that right? Yeah.
Some point this week.
Watch out. Imagination Junkie says, have you seen the movie Appaloosa? It's a Western that depicts an incredibly deep and moving relationship between two men that isn't sexual in any way. It's in my top 5 favorite movies of all time.
I have not seen that. I do love a good Western, though. My grandfather loves Westerns, so I grew up watching them over his shoulder.
So you're saying it's better than Brokeback Mountain?
Hey, and I hear Brokeback Mountain's a good movie, you know?
It may well be. I mean, I never watched it, but yeah. Diva Dawn says, I'm not getting my notifications for some reason. I almost missed the whole thing again. Here's a super chat because you all give us so much.
Thank you. I know the notifications are unreliable. Sometimes I post a video on my own channel and I don't get the notification until like the next day. So can't really rely on him.
True.
Yeah.
It's another thing YouTube needs to fix. Let's
deal with the child sex exploitation first, and then
we'll take a back seat to that.
Yeah, then get to the notification.
Let's see. ZH says, imagine not being able to sit through a 1-hour podcast. These people probably haven't seen Unapologetic. I often wish your podcasts were longer.
Wow, guys, should we make it longer? Is this what it's already pretty 1 hour and a half typically?
Yeah.
One
day we need to do like Joe Rogan, just like turn it on and go 3-4 hours and just go
sit
crazy
and eat
with it.
in front of the camera, hang out, watch a movie. That'd be fun. I'd do that any day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. Drew Evinger just gives a super chat, $20. Thank you very much. Nick Tyler is back. Says, great vocab with the use of the word Luddite earlier when talking about the government boondoggling in our faces, our voices, and fingerprints. Belmont Stakes is this Saturday. Can I get your picks?
Oh, wait, what is it? Okay, so I was right about the Luddites because they're the ones who were smashing the machines, right? That I learned that in high school, I think, or in middle school. It stuck, guys. I don't know who my teacher was. What's the name of the race? I'll look it up while we get through some other super chats.
Belmont Stakes. So
I've never seen somebody so invested in horse racing, Nick. You know what?
Well, it's kind of a thing now. We got to give our horse race picks.
I'm glad you have your passions. I love that for you.
Is it truly like a random thing? Like, are we living proof that you don't need to know anything about this and you can win even if you're ignorant?
I think there are things like that you
there's
can
odds.
study,
yeah, they have
right?
odds, but yeah.
Okay.
Is National Treasure racing? I'm voting for him again, if so.
I can't tell where the...
Or her, I don't know. Do girl horses race? I need to learn more about this stuff.
It's Saturday. We'll read some more, and then I'll look and see if I can find the horses' names on here somewhere.
All right. Let's see. Viribius Unitas says, even today, physical expressions of friendship among men are much more natural in societies that are not hypersexualized. Great show as usual. That's true.
Yep.
The people, like men in India, will like walk down the street with holding hands and stuff.
Right, dude.
So, and it's like not sexualized at all.
It's so crazy. You watch like a baseball game where the coach slaps the player's butt and everybody's like, ooh, that's so gay. Baseball's so gay. It's like, can you please get over yourself for like 2 seconds? It's not that big of a deal. I feel like if guys hug nowadays, they're like self-conscious about being seen as gay.
Yeah, it's strange.
Sucks. Anyways, here are the horses. I don't... Tap it or tape it shoes? Tape it trice? Tap it trice?
Can we see the screen, Scott?
Yeah.
Or is it?
Arc Anglo. National Treasure's there. National Treasure.
Okay, there's my boy.
That's who you're picking. Angel of Empire's there too. Wasn't that your pick, Scott?
No, that wasn't mine.
Was it Cam's?
That was my backup because it sounded like Age of Empires.
Red Route 1, hit show. I'm always inclined to pick hit show. Because it's what we got here at Unapologetic Live. I think that's
Route 1 sounds like a Western movie or something.
Red Route 1. Okay, I'm not going to pick hit show. I'm going to do something different because it failed me last time. Red Route 1. I'll pick.
Okay.
What are you guys picking?
Ooh, wait, could you scroll down? Yeah.
I'm doubling down on National Treasure. Double or nothing.
You got it, Nick.
I'm going Archangelo.
That's a cool name.
Yeah.
I probably would have got that one too.
Okay. We've got it. Those are our picks, Nick.
Alrighty. So there you go. Horse race extraordinaires here on the Unapologetic. Does this count as like gambling on a YouTube channel? Is that like not? Are we gonna get
not call attention to it?
Yeah. Let's see. Marin C says, what are some of your fears with electronics like Alexa or Siri?
Spying. I don't want my personal information being used by these entities. And they're getting free data from you guys. So you don't want that either. They're listening to literally everything you say all the time so they can make you into more obedient consumers. So the very top of my list is not wanting to be one of those.
Yeah. At least not actively like allowing it. We know that they're like monitoring us and tracking my location. And listening to me through Siri and all that. But, I'm not going to give them any extra cameras or extra microphones in my house in my life.
Dude, they're tracking everything. It's crazy. If you think about all the stuff Google owns, like you use sometimes Google Maps on your phone, you use the Google search engine, they have Gmail where they're looking for everything. All of these little apps that they have on Google Chrome too, all of that is searching and they're data collecting.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Use Brave. Let's see. I think only a couple more here. What are your thoughts on colorism? This is from Discreet Geek. A couple more comments. Dark-skinned black people only think it's one-sided, but I believe just like racism, it works both ways.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to bear the brunt of colorism more? Is it going to be a lighter skinned person or a darker skinned person? I think a darker skinned person is going to experience colorism more than others. I think even when you see like diversity quotas in film, which would be a really interesting point, is that oftentimes when they put a black person, they pick like the lightest version of a black person you could possibly pick to put in the show or whatever, which just goes to show they might not be doing it because they actually care. You guys already know I don't think they do it because they actually care. I do think colorism exists. Again, I don't think it's like some systemic thing, but I do think individuals have different views about color. Where is colorism the worst? Often far away from the United States of America. It's really bad in like Korea. I hear it's really bad in Japan. I've heard Italy has a lot of problems with colorism. Even like Jamaica, the islands, there's people who are bleaching their skin. They're literally black people bleaching their skin at the behest of their parents sometimes because they want a lighter skinned child. So it certainly exists.
Yeah, and it's pretty prevalent in India as well. I don't know if you've
Oh yeah. I mean, Just virtually almost every place outside of the United States, there's other squabbles and
pretty much name the entire globe.
Yeah, right.
Meanwhile, white people here are trying to get tans to look better for summer. So, Drew Evinger says the way you speak, so level-headed and have such informed arguments, is the most powerful weapon we have against the left. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad that you enjoy listening and that we're saying something that's level-headed. Sometimes I question myself, but I'm glad.
Get a little tilted sometimes.
Sometimes. Whew, can't help it.
Diva Dawn again says, I'm not a dude, but every time I get anything rainbow colored, someone I know wants to make a correlation to pride. LGBT doesn't seem to understand rainbows, or they were a thing before they appropriated rainbows.
Dude, the rainbow has been co-opted. Sucks. I associate it now with pride. Now if I see it, like, I would not buy something that is like rainbow because I feel like the association would be leftism, which might just be a misjudgment on my part, but I just can't. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to.
When I was a kid in like children's church, they'd have, because of like Noah's, right? It's God's promise to Noah and everything. Like they'd have the rainbow all over the place in like the kids' classes at church and stuff like that. And I doubt they do so now. Maybe some base churches that are just like, we don't care. But I don't know.
Let's take back the rainbow.
That's the last super chat for today.
All right, guys. Seems like you all had a good time. We learned some things. We learned about Abraham Lincoln due to a bunch of misinformation about Abraham Lincoln. We talked about what's happening at Instagram, and if you're just learning that for the first time, what a stark image we've given you. We learned about Ring cameras and being careful about what you do with surveillance items in your household, and we learned about headset indents in people's heads. So there's that. There was high points, there were low points, but here we are at the end of the show. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time we're live. That's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we post videos every single day, so hopefully you're notified by those as well, although we've learned today that the notifications aren't working all that well either, but still, click the bell just because you love the show. We're going to see you tomorrow with a video about the Spider-Verse and what's going on with that new hit movie. So, look forward to that. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
2 final super chats. Health Coach Renee just gives a $10 no message. Thank you,
Thank
Renee.
you.
And one from our friend Dixon. First they took purple, then they took the rainbow. Now they've taken the pastels. All we're going to be left with is gray.
Right. When we were looking at the Spider-Verse story, we're like, the colors of our studio are... Scott's like, the colors of the studio are kind of the colors of the trans flag. And we're like, you know what? Sticking to them. It's my story and I'm sticking to it. Yes, we are.
Oh, dear.
Anyways, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Peace
Bye,
out.
guys.